Hey, may I speak to Kenneth, please?
This is Ken. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. It's Sam with Red Rain.
Right on. Good to talk to you, man.
Nice to talk to you as well. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure. How are things?
Things are going well, going really well now. So, just plugging away. What bands do. So,
I guess that's all you can do these days.
yep.
What's on the schedule? What's going on?
So we just finished a show with Winger this past Saturday up
Right.
at in Pennsylvania, and now we're back home. Trying to finish to write some new songs that we're working on, and then we go back out with Tesla for a couple dates in April. So that's on the books now.
Tesla, that'll be all right.
Yeah. Tesla's good. So we played with them last year. We actually toured with them last year.
Yeah, I saw that picture on your press kit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
Great band.
They are
Yeah.
nice guys, real nice guys.
Let's talk about the band.
Sure.
Red Rain. Give us kind of a brief history of when you guys got together and how it all unfolded.
Sure. So Bubba's the lead singer. Bubba and I got together in 2013 after playing in some other bands that we had played in. I've always been in bands that have played mainly in the bars. I've always played in bands that were mainly covers, but also played some originals. And the last band I was in before Red Rain with Bubba, we were more original than covers. And that just didn't pan out. And so I didn't want to quit. I did take some time off, but Bubba and I got together and I said, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it our way. And our way is we're not going to do covers. Everybody's doing covers. And so in our area, the hard rock bands sort of play all the same hard rock songs. And I just didn't want to do that. So for lack of, or better term is I'd rather do it our way and live or die by the sword. So we got together and we started writing. And we were just going to do it ourselves. And then we were lucky enough to find Larry, our bass player. And that's really how it morphed into the band. And so from that point on, we got Larry. We started writing fairly quickly some of the songs. And we put out our first full-length CD, which was called Chasing Shadows.
Okay.
And we put that out about around 2000. I can't remember if it was the end of 2012 or 2013. So from that point on, we got lucky. We had I've got a really good friend of mine, Wendell Neely and Chris Aiken, who run the Classic Metal Show.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, and I've known Neely a long time, and Neely started playing one of our songs, and it just happened to catch the attention of some people, and we got the attention of Chipster PR, and Chip and I got together, spoke. I know I'm going quick. I'm just kind of giving you the timeline.
Yeah.
Chip and I spoke, and he really liked a couple of the songs off the original CD. Got together, signed with Chip, and then that's how it really kind of flowed from there. And we met David Ivory through Chip, the producer. So we met with David, and so instead of writing all new songs, which would have taken longer, we took 4 or 5 of the songs off the original CD, and we reworked them, sort of rearranged them, and that's what the EP is, the Red Rain EP.
Okay, and that came out?
Red Rain EP came out the end of 2014.
Okay. So what's happening now with recording? Any new stuff coming out?
Nothing with recording now. We have been writing songs. The one good thing about this band, and so just a little bit about the band, is I don't do any of the writing. I do all the sort of more of the business stuff. The rest of the guys do the writing. Bubba is the main writer, but we have no shortage of songs. So, you know how it is. The problem is once you start working on a song, then, Chip's like, hey, we got a show. So then you kind of stop that to get the set for the show. But we're pretty methodical and meticulous about what we do. So we're not going to play a song, especially now that we've learned rearranging these songs and sort of how to get the song to where perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get. So we're not going to release or play anything unless we know it's as good as the material we already have out that people have heard.
Right. So, just a question from a guy who doesn't know much about the music industry. You had a full-length album. Why didn't you just re-release the full length instead of recording the EP?
Good point. When we talked to David, and David, obviously, if you know a little bit about David, David has worked with Hailstorm and the Roots, and he's won a Grammy and everything. So when talking to him, he had heard the original album, but the problem is the songs, they are different. So like the first hit we released was Not That Way. It on our self-produced album, which is Chasing Shadows, the songs are faster. They're more simplistic. So like somebody would always tell me, like in the style of Ronnie James Dio. Ronnie James Dio was what they call an AB singer. So Ronnie, Dio would sing the first verse, then he would sing the second verse, then it'd be a guitar lead, then he would sing the first verse again as the third verse. That's pretty simplistic.
Yeah.
And so really, that's really what our first album was like. It was pretty simplistic. When we got to David, there were some more breakdowns. We had taken the songs, we had shortened them, so some of our songs were longer. And they're better. I'll be honest, they're better after David, tinkered with them. They are better than what we did. So we had also, I'm sorry, I needed to backtrack on this. We did let Chip listen to the original album, and Chip had let some people in the music business listen to it, and they were like, "Hey, these songs are okay, but they're not complete." And so that's why we didn't re-release it.
Okay.
It needed the touch of a real engineer, not a real engineer, because we had a great engineer, a real producer.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So, okay, again, I'm just, maybe nitpicking here, but why not the full album? Like, why couldn't you couldn't oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But, when you do it yourself and you're in your own hometown, you have a studio, and it's a lot less expensive than going to somebody like David Ivory, who has a, bigger studio, the capacity to, pass out the word on the song, or, and so on. So yeah, it came down to money thing.
Gotcha. Well, let's talk about
and also one more thing. I'm sorry. One more thing. And some of the songs on the original album aren't as strong as the songs that we have on the EP. That's another thing.
Okay, so you just decided to scrap them.
We didn't scrap them. We actually play some of them live. When we do play live,
right.
we do play some of them off the first album. But so we have 5 songs on the EP. We actually have 2 more songs, sort of a mix mash of songs that Bubba and I had from another band. But we also play another 2 songs off the Chasing Shadows CD because they're good live. And they're probably, maybe down the road, maybe we record one, I don't know, but there are like 2 or 3 other songs on the album that really aren't worthy to play.
Okay.
So we so we don't. And what I mean by that is they're good songs. We just have to go back and rework them. But I think we've kind of moved on from that. We're moving into some other songs that we have.
Right. Get the new ones coming out.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yes.
So I listened to it last night, the EP.
Yeah.
I really dig it. It's kind of got a cool, some stuff is very 80s vibe and some is grunge, kind of a grunge approach to things.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm right in that. That's just kind of what I heard, on first listen. But, talk about your influences that led to the sound that you guys have.
Sure. The funny thing is music's subjective. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So in the last year, I've been fortunate enough to do quite a few interviews, and it's amazing. The people I talk to are what they hear out of it. I've heard we sound like Thin Lizzy. I've never heard. I don't hear that. I've heard we sound more in today's music. I definitely know that's not true. But that's what people hear.
Right.
I have no problem being compared to anybody. But what the process is we're a little bit older, so we are a product of that generation of the '80s. And I'm a Van Halen fan. I'm a David Lee Roth Van Halen fan. I'm an Alex Van Halen fan.
Nice.
I think he's one of the most underrated drummers. But I tried to, when I was younger, emulate that and have that kind of booming sound. So that's sort of what I tried. The double bass, and so that's sort of my influence. And the other guys have their influences. Larry's influence is a little more Queensryche-ish Rush. He's the bass player, so he's following that bass. And Stevie, the guitar player's a George Lynch's Dokken kind of influence to bring in, and Bubba's a little bit more mixed. He's got even though Bubba's the singer and plays more rhythm, Bubba's a real lead guitar player. And back in the early days here, he was like an Yngwie Malmsteen type player. So
really?
That was his influence. Oh yeah, Bubba can play. Eddie Van Halen. He's more of a fast shredder type of guy, and Stevie's fast, but Stevie's more of a melodic shredder, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you take all those influences and you put it in. But I also tell people this too: we really play what we like. We don't go sit down and say, hey, remember this part in Van Halen we did? We just somebody comes up with an idea and we just run with it. And it's funny because I know there's an '80s vibe there because we're from there, but we do not pick from that and put them in songs.
Yeah. I wasn't suggesting that at all.
No. I know you weren't. I'm just saying people it's. I don't know. When Bubba and I got together, the funny thing was I was like, we made a joke. Bubba was like, "Make me a rock star," and I said, "Write me a hit." And his joke was, "It's going to be hooky. It's going to be he did. It was going to be AC/DC. It's kind of hooky." And I said, "Whatever we got to do." So maybe in his subconscious it's there. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'm not trying to say that you sound like '80s music only or grunge music only. I just thought it was a really cool mix that.
And by the way, I don't want you to think I didn't take offense to that or anything. I was just saying it's funny. I say this to everybody. It's funny, and I'm not saying you said this because I've heard a lot. It's funny how people want to pigeonhole you, like, oh, you got that '80s sound, you're the '80s. I always felt like a good song's a good song, which transcends time. If you had told me you're an Elvis fan, and I said this to somebody the other day, if you're an Elvis fan, does that mean you're stuck in the '60s? Nah, I don't think it is. I think you just like good songs. If you like the Beatles, Are you stuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
So I don't want you to think I wasn't taking offense. It's just it's a hard thing to explain because, and again, I'm not the main writer, so I don't know. But I just think that we do have that '80s sound, but we just I think we just write what we like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not That Way.
Yep.
Was the one
so I hope I didn't offend you. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
I hope I didn't come across being an asshole.
No, God, no. I was just okay. I just wanted to clarify what I was asking.
Oh yeah, no problem. Sure.
Like Not That Way, I thought kind of could have been an '80s-ish type song, and then you get into Toxic and Red Rain, and it sounds to me like it's a little more down-tuned, crunchy, just in-your-face rock. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah, I really like the sound. And one thing I really enjoyed was the vocals. I mean, you listen to a lot of bands and every song is exactly the same vocal wise. You have different melody, but you always know it's Steven Tyler. You always know it's Brian Johnson. He switches it up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a nice clean and a nice crunch,
Sure. Like a little bit of a growl to him, sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds really good.
Yeah. You know what's great about him though, and we it's so funny because we're from Richmond, Virginia, so we had to travel to Pennsylvania. We were just talking in the car, and I find it amazing, and this sounds really bad, and I don't mean it to, I really don't. But you hear singers on an album, and you go hear them live, and they just sound a little different. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Maybe because Bubba sounds the exact same. We play live that he does on the album.
Really?
Yeah, I mean he unless he's lost his voice or something, but he sings the same, he sounds the same. It's that same. If you listen to the album and you go to concert, it's him. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, but yeah, which is amazing.
It is. It's not easy to do for sure.
No.
Where does the band name come from?
The band name came from the song Red Rain.
Okay, so you started with the song and went to the band name.
Yep. So I wish I could give you a better story. It's really a dull story, but I actually think the hardest part of being in an original band is the name.
I agree. It's so important.
Yeah, because but also if you look up, everybody's got. I mean, there's so many bands and everybody's got a name, and I know there was probably other Red Rains out there. We actually researched it and trademarked it. Because I think some people would use it years ago, but nobody was using it, so we trademarked it and you can't copyright, but trademarked everything. But we had written a couple songs, and Not That Way was the first one we wrote, and Red Rain was the other one, and we were just going through all these names, and it may have been Larry. I don't remember. I said, why don't we just call ourselves Red Rain after the song? And we were like, you know what? We've been banging our heads around. Sure, that works. It was that.
At least
that
it's
kind of
done
meeting.
Now.
yeah, the meeting of the minds. You know what I mean? Like, all these world affairs going on, and we're trying to figure out a band name.
When you think of names in rock music, I mean, there's only a few that really make you say that's perfect.
Right.
True. Like Metallica is a perfect name for that band.
Right.
Cinderella is I don't know. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean.
Like, how big would Cinderella be if they had a perfect name?
But what's funny? And so that just goes to show you, though, the hard work they put into it, because they made that name work.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They made it work. Some people put out the name out there, and they're trying to live off that name, and it doesn't work. But, yeah, no, I get it. It's trust me, I get it. It's not easy. And I'm not even sure. I mean, after all these years, to be honest with you, I've never admitted this. I mean, I'm not even sure Red Rain's the perfect name for us, but it's there now. So
it's a cool name. It's a cool name. Like, make it yours. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's talk about a bit when you first started playing. You mentioned Van Halen, and I'm happy you mentioned Van Halen. I try and sneak a Van Halen reference into every interview I do.
Well, you got the right guy, because I'm a monster Van Halen fan.
Eddie is the reason I picked up a guitar, just like millions of other people. But who else
influences me?
Yeah. When you first wanted to get playing.
Well, I'll tell you. So I started playing drums late. I didn't really start till I was 14.
Oh wow!
But when I was younger than 10, my favorite music group was the Jackson 5. I love the Jackson 5.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I know that's probably not a popular thing to say now, but but I am, and you know what? And their music is awesome, and it's still awesome. But
Agreed.
But I remember when I was 10 years old, I was at a buddy of mine's house. He played Van Halen 1, and that just changed everything for me, even at 10. And I know that sounds funny. People are like, oh, there's no way in hell, but it did. It did something to me. I mean, when I heard Run the Devil and went from Eruption, even at 10, I was like, whoa, I got to have this album. And it completely changed my style of music, what I was listening to. Because I have two older brothers. I was listening to Billy Joel, which, again, I love all these artists, but Elton John and all these other bands. I really wasn't listening to hard rock, and it turned me into a hard rock guy. But Van Halen and AC/DC and Aerosmith, obviously, Black Sabbath, big Black Sabbath fan too, Iron Maiden, as I move on. So yeah, I mean, all the classic hard rock bands I listen to.
You have the exact same story as I do.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, but how I got started, I'm sorry, I kind of tailed off, but how I got started was, so again, when I was younger, and the days when MTV just started, I saw Unchained, the video, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's it. That's it.
The Gong.
Now, I wasn't sure I think I wanted to be a singer, because I'm really a David Lee Roth fan, but as you can hear in my voice, that wasn't going to happen, so I had to pick up something else.
Nice.
With the drums.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened with me. Walked into my brother's room. He was listening to Van Halen 1, and I had to pick my jaw up off the floor.
Yeah.
I still remember the exact song and the exact solo that made me want to be a guitar player. It was Ice Cream Man.
Oh, yeah.
The guitar solo in Ice Cream Man made me buy a guitar. Like a week later, I had a guitar in my hand.
And it's funny though, but that's the effect that album had on people, And I defend Van Halen to the death, and I defend David Lee Roth to the death. So nobody can tell me. People can tell me David Lee Roth is washed up and everything else, and the hell with him. I could care less. But that's the thing about that album. It had everything you wanted. It had and again, not taking anything away from Ozzy and the old guys, but man, even though David Lee Roth took his sort of style from Jim Dandy, David Lee Roth is a star. And he was an icon that I just remember seeing the videos. You never took your eyes off of him because you were waiting to see or what he'd said next.
Yep.
And then obviously you have to mention it, even though you don't really have to, with Eddie. I mean, Eddie's just Eddie. There was really nothing like it. Michael Anthony, solid bass player, unbelievable vocals. And then you had Alex, who, again, I think is an underrated drummer, but the monster drum set. He had the 4 bass drums, and then he had the fire extinguishers on the drums. And I mean, yeah, I never understood with people who liked rock and roll, what was there not to like about Van Halen? But it changed everything about me, and like you said, it changed you. And how many people have that story when they heard Van Halen 1?
Oh, well, seriously, every guitar player playing right now had to have been influenced by that album.
You would think. You know what? Here's a funny story. So again, we were driving to Pittsburgh, and I have Sirius satellite radio, and I was listening to Ozzy's Boneyard. And if you have it, then you know the show. But every now and then they do this thing where they talk to Ozzy. You know, he's got a guy that they just sit around and do a little round table.
Yep.
And then they play songs, and it just so happened they played Van Halen, and of course they were asking Ozzy because if you remember, Van Halen opened for Black Sabbath in '78, I think it was.
The first album, first tour,
yeah. Yep, '78, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to hear Ozzy talk about Van Halen, and he was like, he basically said, nobody knew where these guys came from. They just came on the scene, and they basically blew us off the stage. I mean, that's what he was saying. He's like, we couldn't compete with them. And that's pretty heavy, man. You know, because Black Sabbath is obviously Black Sabbath, and in my opinion, the Godfathers of metal. And to listen to them say that about this band, so that's what you shoot for. That's what you strive for.
Yeah, I actually heard that it's one of the reasons that Ozzy quit the band, because he realized that he couldn't keep up with these young kids anymore and wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty impressive.
He did pretty good. He did pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, he did all right for himself.
Yeah, he found a little Eddie guy and kept it going, with Randy Rhoads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And, and it's like you said, music is so subjective.
Yep.
That people like it, people don't. I'm like you. I don't understand how anyone can not like the early Van Halen. If you're a rock fan.
I'm sorry, like who?
The early Van Halen album.
Oh yeah.
Like I just don't understand people who say they didn't have it.
I mean it's so crazy. Like I remember like growing up and people are like, oh man, AC/DC's trash. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's the same old song over and over again. And so I'm like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I mean, that's what they're known for. But they were some of the most iconic hard rock songs in the world.
Absolutely.
And people just want to, they just want to bag on it, and they're probably secretly in their room listening to it. But
of course,
when they're in public, it's like, but people bag on me now of Van Halen because they just know I'm a big Van Halen fan and it can rile me up. But I try not to get as riled up anymore about it.
Yeah, I try to. I try not to mention it anymore with friends because I know they're gonna rag on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because of the last few years and what's been going on with the band, and better not to even bring it up anymore. But I still listen to a Van Halen song a day. I have to.
I do too. I'm with you. Matter of fact, it was only until I was in my 30s that I actually listened. When it was really when satellite radio came out, and it may have been longer than that. Is when I started listening to other music. I play when I had my tape deck or my CD player was always Van Halen. I never listened to local radio.
Really? Huh?
It was always Van Halen. Every day I might throw another CD in there, but it was I'd listened to at least 2 or 3 albums a day, every day.
The way it should be.
Yep, the way it should be.
One of the greats. So let's get back to you here.
Yeah,
that's why
okay.
That's why we're here. But hey, listen, anytime I can have a chat about Van Halen, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, me as well. So I'm cool. So that's great.
That's crazy though. Okay, so you say you've got a couple shows coming up with Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
In what did you say, April?
So April 26th, we're in Erie, Pennsylvania with Tesla at the Warner Theater, and then Saturday off, and then Sunday at Baltimore Soundstage we're with Tesla, April 28th.
Nice.
So those are the two on the books now. We're always constantly looking and working on new shows, but you can't say anything until it's set in stone. So.
Right. And what about your own gigs?
So we don't really play our own gigs. We're it's crazy. We don't really play our own hometown. We don't play Richmond hard. We don't play Richmond at all. I shouldn't say it. We rarely play Richmond. We've played here twice, and one of them was because we were on tour with Tesla last year. We did a tour with them, and then the show ended in Richmond. That's the only reason we played in Richmond.
Wow, why is that?
It's not really. It's hard to support an all original band.
Really?
Bars don't want us because we're not going to make them money because, somebody's going to come in and like, what the hell is this song?
Yeah, they want
we're not,
familiarity.
And I'll be honest with you, and without coming across sounding egotistical, because I'm really I'm the least egotistical guy you ever meet, but I don't want to play bars anymore. It's not what we do,
Right.
I don't. It's just, I don't want to have to load equipment in and play 3 1-hour sets, because if you're doing that, then you're playing covers, and I refuse pretty much to play covers.
Right.
I'd rather somebody say, "Hey, you either got to play covers or your music career is over," and I say, "Music career is over."
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
You could just do Van Halen covers, man.
Yeah, but I can't. You know why? You know why I can't? And that's funny. It is funny, but you know what? I'm not that good of a drummer, to be honest with you, that I could. Because here's the funny thing. I understand when you go play, you don't have to play it note for note. But when you play some iconic song, you play Hot for Teacher, you can't wing that.
That's true.
You can wing, Ain't Talking About Love, because that's really just a straightforward song. But there's a lot. That's the thing about Alex. There's so many intricate things that he does that I think if you miss, that's like going and saying, okay, we're going to play Tom Sawyer, by Rush, and you're just going to keep a 4/4 beat. You know what I mean? You're just not going to do all those other things. I mean, you can't do it. And so I realize that for me, I'd rather do my own stuff. I'll tell you a quick story, and I know I go all over the place. I'm sorry, but I'll tell you this quick story. I was in a cover band years ago, and it was a pretty good band. I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate in all the bands I've been in to play with some great musicians. This was one of the very first bands that I played out around Richmond and stuff. We played the show, and we did the 3 1-hour set, whatever, and the place was pretty crowded. And again, you're talking a bar, so 300 people, that probably holds 400.
Right.
We go there, we're playing, and people are digging it, and then we play Flying High again. Okay, and you gotta remember this is in the mid to later 80s.
Okay.
Excuse me. So we play it, and then we get off stage, and I had boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. I don't remember at that point, but they came over and they're like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, great drumming." I'm like, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And we start talking. And he goes, "But I gotta tell you something." And he goes into Flying High again about how that I missed a beat here, and that the drums really, I should have done this and that, and the guitar player kind of missed a few notes here, and the bass player kind of rode the note more here. I mean, he just picked it apart. And he's like, yeah, he goes, "I'm not offending you." And I was like, first of all, you can't offend me. And second of all, no, I have no problem listening to what you have to say. So he told me all that. And he goes, "So if I was you guys, I'd kind of work on that." And I just turned to him and said, "Listen, and again, this is where it all started for me. I was like, look, I'm not Tommy Aldridge by any means. Tommy Aldridge is one bad drummer, but I'm not going to hit every note he has. When you play bars, sometimes you just, you do it." He's like, "Yeah, I know," and we just kind of went back and forth. I said, "Look, man, I appreciate your opinion, and I'll pass it along to the band." Of course I didn't. But I started thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to bars and people nitpick the stuff that I do.
Right.
And that's really where it started to, it kind of started to, to fester in me that, what, I don't want to do covers anymore.
Right.
So.
Yeah, people can't nitpick your own stuff.
I'm sorry?
People can't nitpick your original songs.
No. And you know what? Like I said, I don't get offended. If somebody walked up and said, "Hey, man, I heard the Red Rain CD and it just flat out sucked, and you guys suck," I would say, I just laugh and go, "I appreciate that, man. That's your opinion, and you know what? It's your opinion."
Well, that's it. Yeah.
I have no problem. I mean, I have no problem telling you we stink.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is something I've come to the realization in the last, 3 or 4 years since I've been doing this site. No music sucks.
Right.
It's just what you like, right?
Right. Greta Van Fleet.
Right.
Okay? People are bagging on them. They sound like Zeppelin. They're a poor man's Led Zeppelin. Blah, 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 blah. But before Greta Van Fleet came out, all the rock fans were like, "We need another Zeppelin. We need another band like Zeppelin. Where's the good old days?" And here's a band of kids. I mean, and I say kids, they're 23, 24-year-old guys?
Yeah.
That are playing their own instrument, writing their own songs, and they happen to sound like Led Zeppelin. I don't know why people are bagging on that. I'm all for it.
And when you really think about it, look back in history. I mean, listen to the first Rush album.
Yep.
It was just a Zeppelin copy, and then
right.
they evolved into Rush, you know? So,
yeah,
it happens all the time. It's been going on forever. How many 80s bands sounded identical to Van Halen?
Oh my God. And dress like them and look like them. And,
well, that's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
these guys will grow into their own and they'll start to have their own sound, but hey, it's a good starting spot.
Listen, I have no problem if they go their whole career sounding like Led Zeppelin. I mean, what's the downfall of that? And you have guys that are in their 20s now that aren't home playing video games and aren't scratching an album, making millions of dollars as sitting there with a turntable at a dance party. These guys are playing their own instruments, and they're out there doing it. I mean, I look on Facebook. Oh, Greta Van Fleet, they suck, they stink. Get your own sound. Get your own sound. It's like, my God, just a year ago, I was looking at your post on Facebook. You were bitching that there's no good rock bands. Well, here's one. These guys are good. You're right. You're right. It's funny that people say that.
Yeah, and that's another thing I've learned from, doing all these interviews and album reviews. There's a shitload of good new music.
There is a boatload of it,
and people just don't know how to find it. That's the problem. It's just not being marketed properly. Maybe, I don't know if it's about marketing, but there's just too many bands that you don't know who to listen to.
I tell you, I don't know if you've heard this site before, but I listen to a site. Well, so Monday through Wednesday, I listen to Howard Stern. I'm a Howard Stern fan. I can fully admit that. And I don't listen to a lot of music anymore because when you go play it, and I'll tell you, when I used to play gigs, I would go to when we would come home, but it's harder on the road. But I would go home after I would finish a bar gig, even playing covers, and I would just go home and I would sit in my living room, I'd pour bourbon, and I would just sit there for like an hour. I just couldn't listen to anything. Had to be silent. And so I listen to more talk radio, a little bit more like Howard Stern. But then when I do listen to music, because he's only on Monday through Wednesday, I listen to some of Sirius. But there's a site out there you might like called hardradio.com, if you haven't heard of it.
Haven't.
Yeah. They play a lot of the bands we mentioned, but they also play a lot of bands like us.
Nice.
And so you'll hear some bands that you've never heard of mainstream that are just killer on there, killer songs.
How has the reception been when you've been playing with Winger and Tesla?
It's been really good. It's been really good. So I kind of give you a list of some of the people we've played with. Our first release of the Red Rain EP, we did a show with Lita Ford. So that was
nice.
Awesome. Yeah, so we played with Lita, and then from that point on, we've played with Quiet Riot, we've played with Kix, we've played with Jackal, Tesla, Winger. But
now,
anyway,
is Winger all the original guys?
I think it was. I know Red Beach
badass.
was. Rod Morgenstein. And you know what? So we got there. We didn't really meet them, but as we were walking in the side stage door because we had driven in, we were going to unload. They were walking out. I guess they had finished it, and Kip Winger came out and just kind of looked at us. I was like, "Are you guys the opening band?" We were like, "Yep." And he goes, "Cool," and he kind of just walked off. And then Red Beach and Rod Morgenstein came out and like, "Hey guys," and we were like, "Hey, I'm Reb and I'm Rod," and we just talked about it. But I was like, "Wow." Because Rod Morgenstein plays with the Dixie Dregs.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow. And he's a badass drummer too.
He is amazing. Yeah. I hope the shows with Tesla go well.
Thank you so much.
And I hope everything goes well. And I hope we hear some new music at some point.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, we're writing it, and we'll see where it goes. We're hoping to debut a new song for the two Tesla shows as of right now. That's our goal.
Nice.
One of them's sort of finished, but it needs to be polished a little bit. But yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to continue to write. But really, to go back on that real quick, and then I'll let you go. Is or if you have more questions. But the goal when Chip and I sat down, the goal was, okay, do we do a new album now? Because we toured, we played a lot last year, and I'm like, no, the goal is to continue to get in front of as many people as you can. That's our goal.
Yeah. Because
it'll be better when people have heard this and really want new music instead of saying, "Hey, I heard your EP. When are y'all gonna do something new?" I want this to soak in, and even though it's been around for a couple of years, people are still discovering it, and that's what we're trying to do. And so when we play live, it just puts an exclamation point on the EP. So that's the goal.
Nice.
Is to continue to play live.
Yeah, you might as well get it out there.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with bands like Tesla, you're getting a good crowd.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we've been very fortunate, and believe it or not, we've been doing this like sort of national kind of level touring for the last like year, and I really after Winger, I'm starting to see where people are starting to respond more, because when we went up there, we played the same place last year with Dokken. Nobody knew who we were. People were like, "Go back to Richmond." You hear that stuff, and then this year, like driving up, we were getting texts, "Hey, saw your new video. Can't wait to see you guys." So it was a different vibe. So I feel like the word's gotten out more now, which is awesome.
Yeah, you got to be patient.
Yeah, yep.
That's all you can do.
But we'll keep plugging away, and but I appreciate the time.
Yeah, and when you're out on the road with Tesla, tell Frank Hannon to give me a call.
I will. I definitely will.
He's one of my favorite guitar players. I've been trying forever to get this guy, man.
By the way, again, and I say this, but unbelievably nice guy.
I've heard that. Well, again, good luck.
Great. Thank you again. Take care.